Zeke Z podcast. It is your boy Zeke Z back with another video. Y'all already know. Up in the building. How y'all doing today? I didn't go to church today. Continue to keep my church lifted up in prayer. I'm not going to go into the details, but we still in transition right now. So, just keep us lifted up in prayer if you can. But I got an interesting topic I want to talk about this Sunday morning, and there's a difference between married men and single men, right? That we all should know that there's a difference, different functions, different mindsets. We finna get to it. I'm finna get to it. And now some of this stuff is going to be kind of touchy now. Don't get me wrong. Now, I love you. I hope you love me after this video. I hope and it's okay to disagree. I mean, we can have our disagreements. You know what I'm saying? I don't want you to agree with everything I say, because that defeats the purpose of, of you watching the video. You don't have to agree with everything I say. You know what I'm saying? But long as we be respectful, and be respectful to one another, and keep our comments respectful, and that's all I ask. You know what I'm saying? But some things I'm about to say is going to be kind of it's going to be kind of a little touchy. I'm not going to lie. It's going to be kind of touchy. And like I said, it's okay to have disagreements. Everybody have disagreements, even in relationships. People have disagreements. We ain't going to always see eye to eye. That's just life. You know what I'm saying? That's just the way it is. That's just like a married couple. They ain't going to always see eye to eye. But the difference is they still figure out the problem, solve the solution, and stick together and still build together no matter what. So, man, thank y'all once again. There's a difference between single and married men. Okay, there's a difference. Should married men be hanging out with single men? Should they be hanging out with single men that are not married? Should a married man be hanging out with men that are not married? I'm gonna say yeah and no. Okay, it's a balance. I know some married. As a matter of fact, I'm cool with a couple co-workers at my job that are married. But do I hang with them? No. Outside of the job? No. Every blue moon? Yeah. Not all the time. Because I understand as a single man that a married man, single man and a married man don't have the same agenda. See, a married man, he's limited to what he can do. He has to go home. He has to feed the kids. He has to spend time with his family. So he can't just be outside all the time. And some married men don't care. They just be outside from sun up to sundown. That's the ones that are not really happy who they with, with their spouse. So they just doing whatever to try to stay away from the drama. They miserable in their marriage, and they not happy. So they try everything they can to not be at home. That's the difference of married men. Now I call that's married men that still function like they single. They really deep down inside, they really want to be single because they really want to do what they want to do. You see what I mean? So you know what I'm saying? And that's the thing. But with a single man he can do whatever he want to do. You know what I'm saying? He can go places wherever he want to go. He's not tied down to nobody. You know what I'm saying? He's not tied down to a woman to where he has to be at home at a certain time. He can't be out too late. You know what I'm saying? So we can see the kind of difference between being single and being married. You see what I mean? So we can see that kind of difference because, a single man can do whatever. He can go over this, he can go to his girlfriend's house or his friend's house. He can go hang out with the fellas, from sun up to sundown. They can go kick it. But a married man, he can do that from a certain extent. He can't do it all the time because that's going to create problems in his home. You see what I mean? So there is a difference in that area. Married men and single men, they don't have the same agenda. They're not on the same mindset, you know what I'm saying? They don't have the same mindset. Now, don't get me wrong, most married men, you know, some of them still function as though they're single. And like I was saying, them the ones that are not happy, them the ones that really don't want to be with a significant other, with a spouse. But hey, you know, they stuck. So they got kids, you know what I'm saying? So they have to be there, even though they really, their heart is not there. But they, you know what I'm saying, they feel like, you know, they obligated, they got to be there. But they really not happy. So they still function as if they single, but really in reality they're not single, they still married. So man, it's real, you know. And I just wanted to you know, there's a difference, and there is a difference, because when you're single, you have the ability to do whatever you want to do, and then you have your options. Like I was saying, I think I said in my previous video, a single man has his options. You know what I'm saying? You can date whoever you want to, you know, you can date any female you want to date, and you still have your options. And I'm going to say this, just because you in a relationship and you have a girlfriend does not mean that you're not single. You're still single. And the reason why I say, because until you put a ring on her finger, you are still single. Y'all still single until y'all get married and jump that broom. That's the old school way of saying it, jump the broom, or make that commitment. That commitment, then you're no longer single. But if you're not married, you're still single. Now, it don't matter if you're in a relationship. It don't matter if you're talking to her and y'all been together for, so it don't matter if y'all been together for 12 years. I would think y'all be married by now, being together that long. I mean, come on now. If you've been with this woman for 12 years and you still ain't put a ring on her finger, something ain't right. Something is wrong with that picture. But, you know, that's the thing. You're still single. You know, until you make that final commitment, and till you stand and say I do, and put that ring on her finger, or y'all stand before the judge or a pastor and you say I do, that's when you're married. You're not single no more, and you make that final commitment. You know what I'm saying? But when you are married, there is limitations. Okay, there's things that you're limited to what you can really do. You know. And I know this is going to be really touchy. God honors marriage, right? The Bible says in the book of Malachi that he hates divorce. God honors marriage. Marriage is built on the foundation of Christ. Marriage is built on the foundation of biblical, you know, because not only that do you make a commitment to her, you made a vow to God. You know what I'm saying? And once you go against that commitment, and once you go against it, you're violating. That means you're violating God. And that's the thing, when you don't, you know what I'm saying, when you get married, it's a difference. You're not only making a vow and commitment to her, but you also making that vow to God. You made a promise to God that you will love her forever. To death do y'all part, for better or for worse, right? That's a serious step. Marriage is a serious step, because you're not just doing it for her. And see, we got to understand, as men, we can't look at it from a lot of times we look at things from a carnal perspective, and you can't look at things from a carnal perspective. You have to look at things from a biblical standpoint, from a biblical perspective. And not only that, but you're making a commitment, and you made a vow to God. And once you violate that commitment, once you go against that commitment, you're going against God. So really, you're going against God when you don't love her like you're supposed to, and you don't treat her like you're supposed to, treat her as the wife and the queen. And it never, you know, and the thing that really alarmed me and got me, the Bible never says wives love your husbands. Only thing that the Bible says that the wife is to respect her husband. I want to make that clear, but it never said for her to love her husband. That kind of blew me right there, because I never found it in the scripture where it says husbands, wives love your husbands. No, it says husbands love your wives, even as Christ also loved the church and gave himself for the church. That's biblical. You know what I'm saying? So the husband is to cherish his wife and cherish her and love her as Christ loved the church, because we got to understand Christ is married to the church. But anytime, when you break that commitment and you step outside of your marriage, and you just violated that commitment, you just broke that covenant that you made, not only to her but before God. So that's why they said if you don't get married until you're really serious, because that's a serious thing to God. God honors marriage regardless of what, whether if you go to a courthouse or whether if you go to a church and have a wedding and stand before a pastor or a minister, it doesn't matter. God honors marriage, and it's a serious thing in his sight when you know what I'm saying. And I'm learning too, I'm learning as I'm getting older. I'm starting to see like, man, that's why they say don't get married if your heart is not really, if you're not really sure that this is what you want, don't do it. Don't do it, because that's a lifetime commitment. That's something that you can't get in and get out. You know what I'm saying? So, but when you're single, you still have your options. Okay. It never, the Bible never supports. Now, people say, well, why Moses came with the certificate of a divorce? Well, God gave that to Moses because of the hardness of the people's hearts. They was finding any reason to divorce their wife. All she couldn't cook right, they was ready to divorce her. She didn't wear the certain type of clothes that they wanted her to wear. They was ready to divorce her. They was finding any reason to divorce their spouse. But in the beginning, if you really read, that's why, we need to go back biblically and read the Bible, so that we can understand what marriage really is about. It's more than just saying I do. That's a deep commitment. You not only made a commitment to her, but you made a commitment to God. But like I was saying, that they was finding every reason to divorce their spouse. But then Jesus told them, I think it was the scribes, he said, but in the beginning it was not so. In the beginning, God never intended for a divorce. That you know what I'm saying, that was not so in the beginning. So he never supported it. Although he gave Moses the right. You do have your rights. You know what I'm saying? You have the right to divorce. But do God supports it? No. Because in the beginning, that was not intended. Marriage was not intended for a divorce. It was never intended for a divorce. Marriage is a lifetime commitment. God's original way is to make marriage last until death do y'all part. That was the original intent for God. For that's why he designed marriage. But people get divorced all the time. It happens. I mean, life be lifing, right? You're looking at a man right now. You're looking at me. I was married. You know what I'm saying? But I'm not gonna go into the details. But hey, life be lifing. You know what I'm saying? But I'm just trying to encourage you, man, as a married man or as a single man, that there is a difference. You know what I'm saying? People say, well, it ain't no difference. Well, that's because you got most married men, they're not being good examples as husbands, and they're not setting the standard as good husbands in society. They're still cheating. They have a side piece. You know what I'm saying? So they setting a bad example for the single men. You're married, but you yet still functioning like you're single. So you know what I'm saying? So that's why it confuses people. People be confused because they be like, man, how'd you married? You know what I'm saying? You old girl, you flirting with old girl, but then you got a whole family at home. You see what I mean? That's a bad example. That's not a good example. That's not a good look. That ain't cool. But hey, it's acceptable. You know what I'm saying? People, society, like I said, it's acceptable. But it's really not acceptable. You know what I'm saying? But it's really a poor example for the single men. That makes single men not even want to get married. That's kind of a discouragement to a man that really desires to have a wife in the future and to build a family, but he see that married men, how they're not being good examples, that would discourage him from doing it. That'll kind of be like, you know what, I don't know if I want to do that because I see how they living, and I don't want to if that's what marriage is, I'm cool on it. You know what I'm saying? He continue to do what he do, but I'm gonna break down the difference in my opinion. Now, I'm just giving my thoughts and opinion. Like I said, you don't have to agree with me on everything. Like, we can have disagreements, but one thing, we got to understand that we still have to be respectful, so I know some people ain't gonna agree, some people is gonna agree, but I'm just speaking facts. I'm just giving facts of what I think. But as a singles now, most of the biblically, most of the men in the Bible were single. I think it was only a few that was married, but it wasn't too many. It was most of them were single. I think Moses was married. I think Samuel was married. King David and King Solomon. Well, he had 700 wives. He had a bunch of wives. But like Elijah, the Apostle Paul, he was never married. One of the greatest spiritual leaders in history, in biblical history, he never had a wife. And he had so much knowledge and depth understanding of marriage and singleness. But when you're married, when you're single, there's it's a difference. Like I said, you can't just because you're single don't give you the right to just sleep with any woman you want to. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of them do it all the time because there's consequences behind our actions and what we do. You may end up with a kid before your time. You may end up being a single dad. You know what I'm saying? You end up with a child. And now your life change after you had that child, because now you a father. Now you have to take care of that seed. You know what I'm saying? That decision you made, now you have to take care of that seed, that child that you bring into the world. That's yours. That's a part of you. You know what I'm saying? So there's consequences. There's a lot out there. Just because you're single, yeah, have your fun. But be smart, be wise. Be careful, because you can catch something. You can get something, and you can get yourself into something that you can't get out of. There's a lot of STDs out there. There's you can have, once you have a baby by a woman, once you have a baby by a female, there's that baby is here forever. You're tied to that person, forever. So there's consequences. Just because you're single does not mean you can just do what you want to do. And of course, that's the world view of singleness. I can date whoever I want to date, and that's true. You can, but it's limited. You got to be careful in that situation as being single. You know what I'm saying? You have to be careful with that situation. So you have to be cautious of who you laying up. That don't give you the right to just lay up with just anybody and just do whatever you want to do just because you're single. There is consequences behind our actions of what we do. But most time, my definition of single is when you have, when you be able to make your own decisions, and you're able to, you're able to go wherever you want to go. And that's true. You can date whoever you want to date. And I'm going to give, some definitions of a single man, like to help you. You have your options as a single man. You can date whoever you want to date, but do you lay up with whoever you want to lay up? I mean, some do, but you're not supposed to. But hey, you know what I'm saying? A lot of men, they do it. Even some married men still be creeping on the side outside their marriage. But hey, you know what I'm saying? I can't judge nobody. That's not my place to judge. But as a single man, you still have, like, I'm single myself, but I have a child. You know what I'm saying? So I'm limited of things that I can do. A lot of times I can't just always be outside. I don't like being outside all the time, because things are different now. It ain't like how it was 15 years ago. So, you know what I'm saying? So, I'm limited, I get my daughter every other weekend, or I gotta have my daughter on certain, weekends. So I can't be out all the time, cause I am I still have a child. And I still got to be a father figure to my daughter. I still have to be there for my daughter, so even being a single man, you still limited, you still can't do it. And especially if you're a single man with kids, if you made, we all make mistakes. Like I said, we all done made mistakes, but you're still limited to what you can do, even being single. Even though you're not with the child's mother, you still have to be a father figure to your child, So, man, I just wanted to give some definitions and, and talk. Not that I ain't gonna say definitions because I didn't really break down words. That's giving definition when you're breaking stuff down. And that's what I really wanted to do on this video, and break down different definitions and just, so we can see what's the difference, because there is a difference between being a married man and a single man. And like I said, think about a married man. He has a big responsibility, is to take care of his home, to take care of his household. He's limited. He can't be out all the time. He got a family to provide for. He got a wife to spend time with, and I respect married men that's all, wherever they go, they have their wife with them and their family with them. Whether if it's trips, whether if it's going to a friend house, whether if it's they out on tour, or they, or their wife is right by there, they got their family with them. That is a blessing. That is a good example. You never see a married man, and I done seen some before coming up. I'm not gonna lie. They always at this event, but they never had their family with them. Like, that's not a good look. That's a poor example of marriage. But I done seen it. I done seen it with my own eyes, and people ask them, well, where your wife and your family at? Oh man, they at home. I guess I don't, you don't know. How you not know where your wife and your family is? I mean, come on, bro. I mean, come on, man. Come on, man. Grow up. But that's a good example. When a married man take his family whatever he do, his wife and his family is always by his side. He never go nowhere without his spouse. He always have his family with him. That's what make a good example of a married man. Now, a bad example is most married men, they go places and they be out at places and they never had a spouse with them, and they function as though they single. So I just seen that, plenty of times. But I'm not gonna go into all that, but I done seen it with my own eyes plenty of times. And so, man, I just wanted to share my thoughts and my opinion on the difference between a married man and a single man. Now, a single man, like I said, a single man can do whatever. He can go places. He's not tied down in a relationship. He's not in a romantic relationship with nobody, so he still has his options. He can be with, he still can, date her, and if he chooses to be with her, if this is the person he want to build a lifetime in the future with, hey, that's the woman he want to be with. He has that option to be with her, or he has the option not to be with her. You see what I mean? He has that option because he's single. He's not. He don't have a ring on his finger. He's not tied down to nobody. He has the option to choose. That's the difference of being a single and a married man. This is the difference of being single. He can hang out with his friends from sun up to sundown. He can go. He can go wherever he want to go. Or she want to go. You know what I'm saying? Even with the single women too. There's a lot of single women, a lot of single men. I think it's more single women than men, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, so I just wanted to share my thoughts and opinion on the difference between a married man and a single man. And I'm not done. This is actually part 1 of the video, and I'll be coming with part 2, and I'm gonna break down the different definitions. I didn't really have my other phone, so I can look up definitions to break down the difference between a married man and a single man. But be looking for that one on part 2 of this video. So once again, man, it's your boy Zeke Z. Thank y'all for tuning in to this video. Like and share, and I will see y'all on the next video. Peace.